Welcome to Season 2 of ADAC Answers, an education podcast for all. Produced by the Podcast Business News Network, hosted by Jill Nicolini. ADAC's mission is to empower K-12 school leaders and teachers to meet the individual learning needs of all students through customized, professional development and coaching services. Led and staffed by passionate, committed professionals, ADAC prides itself on delivering precise solutions to its clients' unique education challenges. ADAC stands for Attain, Differentiate, Advance, and Collaborate. 4 words we believe epitomize our work. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are so excited to have our next guest joining us here from ADAC, Dr. Sandra Drummey, better known as Sandy Drummey, and Matthew Maloney, here to talk more about what ADAC does and, of course, how they're helping so many, especially when it comes to children in early education. So first and foremost, welcome to the show. How are you both today?
Doing great, Jill. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. After the weekend, right? Can't get much better. What about you, Matthew?
Everything's great here. Thanks so much for having us.
Well, thank you for coming here, being back. It's a great team you all are a part of, and I've gotten to know you the past few weeks. And for those new timers out there, we need to start off by talking a little bit about ADAC, what that is, if you don't mind giving us a little overview. And then we're going to dive into early childhood education, which I know is super important. So who wants to give me the background a little bit about ADAC to start?
Absolutely. I'm happy to jump in. At ADAC, our mission is to empower K through 12 educators to meet the learning needs of all students. And we place a special focus on helping students who have learning differences. And we do that through a variety of ways of helping them access grant money that's available to schools, as well as providing professional learning and services for those schools.
Perfect. So teaching, learning, educator, coaching, special education, fundraising. You really do a lot to empower our school leaders and teachers to effectively teach students. And I love how you say with learning differences. That's beautiful. Also, ADAC, the advocacy, do you want to just touch upon that? Maybe Sandy, what that is exactly?
Yes, so our advocacy team works with various dioceses, archdioceses across the country, helping with accessing federal funding for private schools. And Steve Perla heads up that division, and I can say that it is rapidly getting very busy.
Perfect. And if we want to reach out to anyone, would you mind sharing the websites on hand?
Absolutely. Our main website is www.theadac.com. That's theadac.com. And we also have our advocacy website, which is theadacadvocacy.com. You can visit either website and they link to each other, and you'll be able to find all the information you need.
Perfect. And Dr. Sandy, could you mind just telling us a little bit about your background and what you do specifically for ADAC?
Sure, I'm happy to, Jill. I've been in special education my entire career. I've been honestly in Catholic education my entire career. I have served as a special education teacher, a principal, and an assistant superintendent, always with the focus on working with students who learn differently and trying to support them so that they have access successfully into a great education.
Beautiful. And Matthew, would you mind telling us a little about your background and contributions to ADAC?
Yes, at ADAC, I'm the Vice President for Educational Partnerships. So I'm charged with building new relationships with school districts, school networks, and individual schools. I've been in education for nearly 20 years now, starting as a teacher and moving my way up the ranks as an assistant principal and finally a principal. I've worked at all grade levels, pre-K through 12th grade.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you all for being here again. And during the previous episode, we discussed a lot of those challenges that are being faced from K through 12 education, including the teacher shortage crisis, which I know is huge. So this is really impacting early childhood education. Correct, Matt? Do you want to take this one?
Absolutely. And this question comes at such a great time where ADAC is actually hosting a free 2-part webinar series this week and next. So March 12th and then again on March 19th. So if anyone visits our website, they can register for that free webinar. But there's a teacher shortage throughout, and early childhood education is needed more than ever. As you know, with our economy, there's really no such thing as a single income household. In most cases, parents are working. They need somewhere for their kids to go at younger and younger ages. And so the demand for early childhood education is there. And thus the demand for early childhood teachers are there. And it's a different specialty than K through 12 when you're talking about children who are less than 1 year old through those pre-K years. There's really specialized training and instruction that the teachers need to know in order to effectively teach those students. So that's definitely an area of need in the teacher crisis that we're seeing throughout the country.
Wow, yeah, I have two kids, first and third grade, and I know the teachers have been talking amongst themselves about not having enough help. And my sister is a special education aide at the other elementary school, and the same problem they're running into finding that help. And it's, they're trying to promote in the community, sending home letters even to us about, people wanting to come step in even as substitutes. And there's been a shortage, and we're on Long Island in New York, and I know this is nationwide and it's really affecting so many. Well, let's move on to just, I guess, for our listeners to distinguish the difference between early childhood education, what that means, the difference from daycare. Sandy, if you can help us with that, and why are early childhood education programs really important, would you say?
Yeah, there is a difference between the two programs, Jill, that I'd like to share with you today. So daycares are those places where parents would drop off their children to be cared for during the day while they're at work. And they do a wonderful job, with changing diapers and taking care of those students and nurturing and loving them during the day in the absence of their parents. But early education centers different a little bit from that, because I feel they offer, well, we know they offer more in a sense of an educational foundation that can help these students. So yes, the early education centers do all the same things daycare centers can do as far as nurturing, loving, and caring for children. But a lot of them are now offering some great foundational skill building. They offer some curriculum. They're teaching more social and emotional skills for children, helping them to develop some of their fine motor skills. So there is a little more, I feel, with early education centers, more of that pre-primer that we'd like to see before these children start to transfer into, elementary schools.
Yeah, good point. You mentioned fine motor skills, and that's something as having my first pre-K drawn into the mix, and the teacher called and said, he has some trouble. We need to send him to an early childhood education center for evaluation because his motor skills weren't right, the way he was picking up blocks and Legos. And lo and behold, he didn't really know how to use a scissor. And I felt the blame as a parent. I said, well, you know what? I never worked on cutting with him. I didn't work on drawing with him much. And for my second kid, obviously I learned that I should be doing more of this at home. But
Yeah.
as he went there for the program, he ended up not qualifying because it was something he just didn't learn. He was capable of doing it, unlike my nephew who had the fine motor skill, and he had PT at the house until he was 5 years old to help him learn, to help him pick up that pencil. But those little things I never even knew were a problem. And parents out there even listening today, these are normal things that, us as parents, you're not aware of. You all working in the education business, this is, in your nature to know. And just to bring some awareness to our parents out there, the earlier you get them started, like you mentioned, in some sort of curriculum is amazing. And let me ask, at these early childhood education programs, do they also offer STEM? The science, the technology, the engineering, mathematics, is that part of it as well? Or is this too early for them?
No, absolutely. They do. They could, it's different. It's different in every different early education center, depending on, the leadership and how they decide to
Yep.
to model their program. But yes, I have visited early education centers where STEM is involved. There's a lot of interaction, a lot of hands-on activities for the children, which once again starts to build those foundational skills that are really helpful for those kiddos at such a young age.
Perfect. Well, obviously, it's benefiting a lot of people. Matt, let me ask, how do early childhood programs benefit the larger school community as a whole?
Absolutely. Jill, to reiterate one thing that you said on getting them in early, being in the early childhood center, like you said, there are some things that are just developmental, like holding the scissor or how you hold
Yep.
your pencil, and
Hmm.
other things that could be a greater underlying issue that might need to be addressed. And these types of centers really help with that. And as we know, the earlier you catch something with young children, the more remediation, and you can get them up to speed with the rest of their peers. So that's super helpful. But in terms of the larger community, especially in the private school setting, but also in the public school setting, it feeds your enrollment from just a leadership standpoint. The private schools are always thinking they're tuition based. How do I keep our
Hmm.
enrollment strong so our
Yep.
budget is strong? Well, this gets families in the pipeline early. But what it really also does, which is great at the public school, is that it creates consistency from early on. It's that kind of they're in your program from a young age. And so they understand how your school operates, how what are the rules, what's the discipline program, what are the expectations, and all of that just helps a student to thrive more and more and more.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much. Now, also go to the website, theadac.com, for more information as we continue the show. That's theadac.com. And we're excited to know that you're growing, thriving, and also very proud of the fact that you mentioned us for the podcast, right? ADAC Answers. You can learn more and check out our previous podcast there. And the previous episode, we discussed a lot of the challenges faced with K through 12 education, including the teacher shortage crisis. But I know we're diving further into that today. Also, Sandy, would you say public and private schools require to follow the same staffing requirements, or do they not, as early education providers such as daycare centers? And can eligible families use publicly funded vouchers to pay for early education programs at public and private schools? That's a two-part question. I'm sorry.
Yes, that question, that's quite all right, Jill. Yes, and yes, so as far as following the requirements, state by state, it's different by, state from state. So, but they are required to follow certain requirements such as, ratios, how many students per teacher, safety. Safety protocols need to be put into place. They would need to have the staffing certified, the staffing, teachers, even daycares and early education teachers go through a certification process that is necessary to take care of these littles, as we call them.
Wow.
So yes, they would, I would say it varies state to state. And it's very important that we follow those requirements because in everything else we do in education, primarily safety needs to be at the top of the list for these kiddos. So as far as vouchers, yes, same thing. Vouchers will vary state to state. These are great subsidies for parents who need them to be able to send their students to both daycares and early education centers. We highly recommend that school officials as well as parents reach out to the early education departments within their own state to see what the requirements are to be, eligible for vouchers. We have worked with early education centers using vouchers, and I can say it is truly a gift for these folks to be able to have this service. So if you can, take advantage of it, please do. I think it's a wonderful opportunity, not only for the parents, but to be able to get these students into these great programs.
And by the way, where are you all located? Where is headquarters for ADAC?
Headquarters is actually in Agunquit, Maine, but
Mm.
we all work remotely. I am calling you today from Swansea, Mass. And I
Beautiful.
think Matt is still in DC. Am I correct?
I'm in Washington, D.C., working with some of our school partners down here. Absolutely. And to add a little bit to what Sandy said, some of the variants from state to state. Jill, where you are in New York, the voucher program is called U Pre-K, Universal Pre-Kindergarten. That
Actually, my son was in Universal Pre-K last
Yep.
year, 2 years ago. Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. My home state now is Florida, and Florida has VPK, Voluntary Pre-Kindergarten, which is also a voucher that pays for the 4-year-old pre-K program. Every state might call it something a little different, but it's
Mm-hmm.
becoming pretty standard across the nation that there's some type of program for this, because it is so crucial to get those foundational skills for students.
Yes.
Unfortunately, with all the ed reform that's happened, it feels like kindergarten is the new first grade. And so you're doing more, what you and I did in kindergarten when we went through school is now pre-K
Pre-
skills.
And
Everything is
yes,
speeding up.
it really is. And I feel so bad. I had one of my son's students in class. He didn't go to pre-K, and there was two of them in the class that didn't, and they were so far behind in the curriculum. And my heart went out to them. And one also spoke, it was English was his second language. So I was like, oh my goodness. I said, if I didn't bring my son to preschool, he wouldn't even know the alphabet. And I feel like everyone was so much more advanced than these two students, unfortunately. But at the same time, it's like more awareness that, yeah, you know what, we really should make pre-K mandatory, and programs like the UPK, which in my state offer a lottery system, right? So you
Yep.
basically, you want to send your child to pre-K, and of course there's a fee for that, but you get a chance to enter the lottery to have it, paid for, which is a beautiful thing. And for low income families, especially, I know you could reach out and apply for that as well. It's super important because I feel, and I've seen it firsthand, the student lag behind, because we would do study dates and play dates with this one student, and he was very behind. So yeah, it doesn't do, I think, justice. I think families need to know that it's important now. Pre-K, like you mentioned, is really should be a requirement. Maybe in the States one day it will be now. It's fascinating. I remember going to kindergarten, and that's where I first learned my ABCs. And now it's in kindergarten, you better know how
That's
to write them at this point.
You're
Yeah.
absolutely right,
Yeah.
Jill. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to your
well,
point too, I'm sorry, Matt. No, I was just going to add to Jill's point, that student that you saw that was struggling, there could be something more going on there.
Yes. Plus
And
with mhm.
right, and being in front of qualified educators, something like that would be red flagged early on in a child's life. And, early intervention could kick in to be able to address whatever it is happening so that that student doesn't need to struggle. Maybe it was just because he missed out on daycare, or maybe there's something more going on. So like I said, it's the earlier we get them in, I think the better in the long run it will be for these students.
Got it. Go
yeah,
ahead,
and
Matt.
it's also just a reminder to all the parents out there, not just getting your kids into a program early or something, but also just read to your children early. The research is
Hmm.
remarkable that the younger you're reading to your students, and you may not think, oh, they're 1 or 2 years old, they're not getting this or whatever. The exposure to books and reading increases their vocabulary, increases their what's called pre-literacy skills, the pre-reading skills, and you will see such a difference just reading to your children's, 15 or 20 minutes a few times a week makes such a difference, the research shows. So when you think, oh, I want to whisk them off to bed, I have young children too. My two oldest are the same age as yours, Jill, and then I have a
Oh,
3-year-old.
okay. Oh my
And
goodness.
so
Yeah.
but you'd be amazed what just the 20 minutes of reading before bedtime does in the long run
Yep.
to really enhance one, that love of reading and that love of learning, which is so foundational, but really prepares them once they start school.
Yeah, we just did. We just finished up PARP, the parents reading program. I'm not sure, it's parents as reading partners in New York. We call it PARP
Okay.
Week. So we were
Okay.
logging, trying to read at least 30 minutes a night or more. And, they made it great, they could slime the whoever, whatever class, does the most reading minutes. They make a fun week for the kids at school, and they showcase all their work in the lobby. You could end up sliming the teacher next week, win a pizza party for who, reads the most. And it's those types of
Yep.
programs which really do inspire. And I know it's hard at night to want to read with the kids, but so proud knowing that my first grader is now reading a book, when last year it was like he didn't know how to spell. And it's just fascinating to see that transition. And the more, like you said, the reading, the better. So I commend you on that. And reading is huge. That's a good point to bring up. Thank you.
Yep.
And let's go over to the school leaders that need to follow some, you mentioned the same regulations. Do the principals have the time and expertise to apply, to secure approval and to accept early education vouchers? Did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, no, it's the same way we talked about how teachers' jobs are more and more difficult. This
Yeah.
is one of those things. It's another thing on school leaders' plates that they have to get well versed in how to utilize these vouchers and become qualified for them. And so it is very important for leaders or a member of the administration at a school to be well versed in this, because in many ways the vouchers, that's free money in order to have
Mhm.
these programs. And as I said before, it only benefits everyone to have these programs because the students get early access to education and those pre-reading skills, that those early curriculums to prepare. But also, if a student enters a K-8 school, which can now be a pre-K through 8th grade school, you know, you'll have a student in the same school community for a decade or more. And that consistency, the teachers know the family, the teachers know the student, they know if they struggled in pre-K, they know that before they get to kindergarten. And it's not, oh, well, we have to get to know all these kids all over again because they're brand new. It's that consistency and that continuity is just so important, and it allows progress to be made even more than if it's a brand new student each year at the school.
Got it. And what about the strategic advantage for public and private schools to offer early education programs and to accept vouchers? What would you say to that?
Yeah, no, the strategic advantage is kind of what we've said,
Yeah,
and that is to the vouchers are available,
huge.
so it broadens your audience of who can come to your school as well, because like you said, those vouchers are so important to the lower income families who may need them. They're great for everybody who can access them, but it adds diversity to your school, and it really helps get students started on the right foot in their educational career.
Beautiful. Well, does ADAC offer any services to assist public and private school leaders with securing approval for vouchers? Sandy, did you want to touch upon that one?
Yes, I'll be happy to, Jill. So ADAC sees a real need in this area, and we are rolling out a new service, and it's going to be providing schools with an ADAC consultant to help them through this process, especially for schools that want to look into opening early learning centers with, right on in the campus. There's a lot coming down from the federal government these days supporting early education in this country. So we are going to work with school leaders to look at the facility to see if the facility is up to par. We will work with them to bring in all the proper. I have a friend who just did this, and she's like, you have to bring in the fire department, you have to bring in the building inspector. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot involved. And to Matt's point, principals just don't have the time. And they know that it's going to be a great value to their school, as Matt said, on so many levels and for so many reasons. So we will come in and work very closely with the principal and help put all of the right things in place so that they're able to get an early learning center opened on their campus. It's a lot involved. We're looking forward to working with school leaders to see this happens, because once again,
Mm-hmm.
we feel strongly that, having these kiddos with us early on is just a blessing in so many ways.
Beautiful. And just to talk a little bit about your client base. Now, you're nationwide, correct?
Correct.
Yes, we're nationwide. We work with over uh, Sandy, is it 2,500 different schools we've been
Mhm.
in already? Yeah, coast to coast, and yes, preschool early learning area through 12th grade.
And Catholic schools I was reading as well. And yeah, there's a lot that
Yeah,
a lot of different people, two private special
yeah,
education foundations as well. But obviously there's room for more and you want to get the word out.
That's right.
absolutely. Yes, we all kinds of private schools, faith-based schools, Catholic dioceses and Catholic school networks, and other private school networks, Jewish day school networks. We've
Wow.
been working very closely with, as well as some public school districts. And then ADEC Advocacy is our 5013C non-for-profit that works with helping schools access and better utilize their federal and state grant program funding.
Beautiful. Well, we're almost out of time here for today. Dr. Sandy, Matthew, what else did you want to add to the show for today? What do you think is important for your viewers?
I don't know. We covered a lot, Matt, but
Did.
I think once again, ADEX work is, we're all
Yep.
educators, so we certainly understand the needs.
Mhm.
Many of us have been principals and leaders, so we know what it's like to be able to fill those roles and still try to propel your school forward. And I think because of the experience we have, we can certainly work closely with schools and and school leaders to assist them in these areas that, that we feel they want to get to, but some days you just can't because it's just, we call the principal job interrupted because you're constantly interrupted. Matt, do you want to add to
Yep.
that?
Yeah, I would just say, we at ADAC, we're educators who serve educators, and so we're here to support our schools and our leaders and our teachers. And for all those listening who might work at a school, we know that every school community is very, very unique. Some of our answers during the podcast are, well, it varies from state to state, it varies from school to school, and that's because no two places are alike. And so we try to become a part of your community and serve your community. We're not trying to impose us on you. We're trying to become and work with you and help you.
Perfect. And how can we reach out to you all?
Yes, visit our website, www.theadac.com. That's THEADAC.com. We have a wealth of information on our website. There's a contact link in our website. So if you want to get on a phone call with us or email us, everything is right there for you. And we look forward to being on future episodes with you, Jill.
Yep, same here. Great seeing you both again. And until next time, I think next week is artificial intelligence. We're going to be talking about that as well. So looking forward to it and definitely to seeing you both again. Thank you for all the information today for everyone. Very helpful. And we appreciate your time here.
Thank you, Jill.
Have a great day. Thank you very much.
You too. Thank you so much.
1 in 5 children in the United States have learning differences, making it more challenging than ever to be a teacher or school leader. At ADAC, we empower K-12 educators to meet the learning needs of all students through customized professional development and coaching services. Learn more at www.theadac.com. That's THEADAC.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode of ADAC Answers. If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to hear more, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. To learn more about ADAC, please visit our website, www.theadac.com. That's theadac.com. You can also find us on Facebook and LinkedIn.